Email has long been a core tool for business communications, but a 2013 survey by SendMail Inc. found that it has caused tension, confusion, or other negative consequences for 64% of working professionals. So, how can you avoid your emails doing this? And how can you write emails that get the results you want? Hello everyone, my name is Ravi and welcome to this session on writing advanced business emails. You can download the workbook from the link below. The workbook has two modules, one for the basic email etiquette session which has another video, and module 2 on advanced email writing, which is what we are doing today. The workbook also has exercises you can practice once you're done with this session. On that note, let us look at the learning objectives for this session. We will learn to use the appropriate tone, what is phrasing in emails, using cohesive words and phrases, writing focus ideas and statements, and using the inverted pyramid. So let's move to our first topic for today, that is the tone. So what is tone? Tone in writing refers to the writer's attitude towards the reader and the subject of the message. The overall tone of a written message affects the reader just as one's tone of voice affects the listener in everyday exchanges. You should consider the tone of your message, whether you're writing a memo, a letter, a report, or any type of business document. Tone is present in all communication activities. Ultimately, the tone of a message is a reflection of you, and it does affect how the reader will perceive your message. So how can you make sure your messages have the appropriate tone? You should consider several things when preparing to write. The following questions will help you determine the appropriate tone for your message. First, ask yourself, why document? You should take time to consider the purpose of your document in order to determine how you should express the message you wish to convey. Obviously, you want the message to reach your audience, and you will probably want the reader to take some action in response to your message. When you consider the message and how you wish to express it, the tone of your message will become apparent. Let's take an example. Rishi is writing a job acceptance letter to an employer, but he is unsure of the tone he should take in the message. He has decided to accept the position. When he asks himself, "What is my intent upon writing?" So he answers, "I want to accept the position, thank the company for the offer, and establish goodwill with my new co-workers." So as he writes the letter, he quickly assumes a tone that is appreciative for the offer and enthusiastic about beginning a new job. Second, who am I writing to and what do I want them to understand? Now, who is your audience? Whether it is an employer or a fellow worker, it is essential that you consider your reader before writing any document. Your message will be much more effective if you tailor the document to reach your specific audience. The message you wish to express must be written in a way that will effectively reach the reader. The tone that you use to write the document directly affects how the reader will interpret what is said. Now, an example. Anthony is writing a cover letter for a position as business analyst for a financial company. He is unsure that he will be able to succeed at such a position and uses phrases such as, "I hope that you will contact me," or "I know that my qualifications are not very impressive," and so on. Now, the reader is likely to interpret these phrases to mean that Anthony isn't really qualified for the position or that he doesn't really want the position. Clearly, Anthony is not assuming an appropriate tone, so he must consider that 1. He is applying for a position as a business analyst. 2nd, he wants the employer to ask him to come in for an interview. And finally, the employer will look for highly motivated and confident individuals. If Anthony were to consider these things, he may rewrite his cover letter to include such phrases as, "You can reach me at 964-649" and so on, the phone number. Or, "I look forward to hearing from you." Or, "My qualifications make me an excellent applicant for this position," and so on. So the tone of the message has changed drastically to sound more confident and self-assured. Finally, ask yourself, what kind of tone should I use? Fortunately, you can use the same kind of tone for most business messages. You should strive for an overall tone that is confident, courteous, and sincere, that uses emphasis and subordination appropriately, that contains non-discriminatory language, and that stresses the "you" attitude, and that it is also written at an appropriate level of difficulty. The only major exception to these guidelines are when you need to write a negative business message, such as when you deny a job offer or a customer request. We will look into writing negative messages towards the end of this session. So in short, write from the reader's perspective. Instead of simply writing from the perspective of what the reader can do for you, write in a way that shows what you can do for the reader. A reader will often read a document wondering what's in it for me. So it is your job to tailor your document accordingly. Now let us look at an unprofessional tone. An unprofessional tone sounds rude, negative, and disrespectful. Let us read the email and note the unprofessional voice used. So the numbered items point out the problem areas. Let's read the email. Nityanandan, I see that you are late with your operations report again. Your personal problems have resulted in an inability to perform your duties and are cutting down the team performance, putting us all behind schedule. Such laziness is beyond acceptable parameters and will not be tolerated. Get on the ball or get out. Now, what makes this email sound unprofessional? Let's analyze the email. So you see on the left side is the unprofessional tone, and the reason why it is unprofessional is on the right. So the first one, Nityanandan. Using last name as a greeting is rude. Second, I see that you. You sounds disrespectful and accusatory. Third, your personal problems. Personal lacks tact and common courtesy. Fourth, such laziness is beyond acceptable parameters. Do not use extreme adjectives. Fifth, get on the ball or get out. Overall, the tone is negative and harsh. Now let us look at a professional tone. So a professional tone sounds specific, positive, and reasonable. Let us read the email and note the professional tone. Dear Ravi, I just wanted to remind you to turn in the operations report from last week. Your team has always been a top performer but has been a little off lately, and these reports will help us monitor where we can help you improve your team productivity. If there is any way I can help, please let me know. This is how a professional tone should sound in an email. Now let us look at personal voice, active voice, and negative tone. Voice is your unique view, your writing personality. It is created through the use of language, phrasing, tone, mood, and feelings. A personal voice is a direct voice that uses personal pronouns such as you, I, we, us, yours, mine, ours. It is being used more and more in business communication. So choose this voice when you're problem solving, collaborating, or building a relationship with associates, clients, or customers. Let us look at an example. In this example, we need to avoid a sentence like, client communication must create a positive image. Instead, use a personal voice using personal pronouns like you, your, ours. So the sentence can be, your communication with the clients gives a company the positive image we want to build. When you're writing or responding to an email, imagine yourself in the reader's position. This helps you write with an appropriate and sincere voice. So if you're writing to someone, use the following questions to help you get a picture of your reader. So what are the questions you need to ask yourself? What does my reader already know about this subject? What does the reader need to know? How will your reader react to this message? Do you want the reader to do something after reading your mail? What do you want from them? And finally, consider who you are writing to. Are you writing up to the management or down to the other employees, or across, that is to the associates, or out to a customer or client? Let us now talk about using active voice. Using active voice for the majority of your sentences makes your meaning clear for readers and keeps the sentences from being too complicated or wordy. Now, sentences in active voice are also more concise than those in passive voice because fewer words are required to express action because the subject directly performs the action. So let us look at some passive and active voice sentences. So in passive voice, the sentences, your order will be processed today. Converting that into active, it will be, we will process your order today. Another example of passive voice, it is believed by the candidate that a ceiling must be placed on the budget by Congress. Converting that into active, the candidate believes that Congress must place a ceiling on the budget. Now let us look at what is a negative tone. Negative tone tends to make the reader feel angry and defensive and may damage your professional image. While sentences containing negative expressions might lead to compliance, they rarely result in happy cooperation. Negative tone can also make your message difficult to understand and remember. So how do you avoid negative tone? Firstly, no negative words in a subject line ever. We do not want to send out an email with a subject line that the recipients feel like avoiding. Think about your reaction when you receive an email with a negative subject line. Do you even feel like opening them? Second, follow reader-centric attitude. Be pleasant with your emails, but always think about the recipient of your email while writing your subject line, greeting, and content. If you are writing something of key importance, always try to anticipate the response from the recipient, and if that is the expected response. For example, if you are conveying to your client about the delay in project schedule, and if the client is a business owner with little tolerance towards technology, ensure while you provide the reason for the delay, they are not too technical and can be understood by the client. Avoid extreme adjectives. There is no need to give away emotions or feelings in business emails. The key here is to be pleasant but professional. So avoid phrases like, it is really unfortunate, or I deeply regret to break this news, or it is extremely urgent, and so on. Avoid negative words. Negative words can create unnecessary tension or strain. So some words to avoid are never, unavoidable, uncertain, fear, irresponsible, unfortunate, failure, and so on. Use positive phrasing to convey negative news. Consider how receptive you are to negative news emails. You definitely do not want them in your inbox, nor do they give you any good feeling. So avoid negative tone. Turn negative tone into a positive tone. Don't break the news right at the start or right at the end. Provide a context to the news, give reasons, and then give the bad news. Consider placing the negative news in the middle of the email body. So after giving the bad news, always talk about the alternatives and the goodwill. By offering alternatives, you are being proactive and helpful. So the key to keep in mind while offering alternatives is, do not overpromise, be realistic with your alternatives. Next, tell what can be done instead of what cannot be done. Nothing can be gained by telling people what they cannot do or what cannot be done. Instead, be constructive and focus on what can be done. Instead of talking about limitations or constraints, talk about possibilities or opportunities. No blame game. You certainly do not want to be the person in an email thread pointing fingers. You can actually make use of passive voice while referring to an unhappy incident or a mistake, as it conveys meaning with subtlety. Finally, always reread before hitting the send button. Always skim through your composed email before hitting send. Also, check the recipients list to ensure the recipient of the email again before the email goes out of your inbox. Now let us look at converting negative to positive tone. These are some sentences in the negative tone, so if you want, please take a minute, pause the video and rewrite the sentences in a positive tone. So let us look at how to convert these negative sentences into a positive tone. The problem we have at hand is, so you convert it into a positive tone by saying, the situation we have at hand is. Instead of saying we must implement the first solution, say we should prefer to implement the first solution. I am unable to provide the report before Thursday afternoon. Instead say, I will provide the report by Thursday afternoon. You did not submit the report this week. Instead, the report was not submitted this week, or I did not receive the report this week. They failed to meet the deadlines for submitting quotes. Instead say, the deadline for submitting the quotes is missed. Now, use the following guidelines to create an appropriate professional tone. Be sincere. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Be courteous. Imagine you are receiving the message. Be upbeat. Focus on solutions, improvements, and gratitude. And finally, be tactful. That is, focus on the issues, not the people. Don't place blame. Also consider how you would speak to the person you are writing to if you were face to face. Now, this will help your writing sound natural. Let us now look at phrasing in emails. First, let us look at Indianism. Most official communication happens over written medium, and people all over the world have different colloquial usage of certain phrases and words. Our task is even more difficult if we consider that in writing we do not have the non-verbal cues to tell us that our message is understood. So what is Indianism? Indianism refers to a word or phrase which is a characteristic of Indian English. Indianism may also refer to the way a sentence has been structured, as if it was literally translated from an Indian language to English. Please read this email and check for any Indianisms. Now let us look at the Indianism in this email. First, prepone. Instead of prepone, you can use reschedule or bring forward. Out of station. Instead use out of town. Revert back. Now the word revert itself means to return to a previous subject or condition. So the insertion of the word back in the sentence is incorrect. Discuss about the presentation. So are you discussing about the presentation or are you discussing the presentation? I will intimate. Now intimate can have two forms, one as a verb, another as an adjective. So generally, intimate refers to making someone aware of something in private. Instead, use inform. So inform refers to any general information that is being passed on but without secrecy. Now let us look at some phrases to avoid and its correct usage. So you have the Indianisms on the left and then the business English. Out of station, instead use out of town. I am liking, use I like. Explain me something. Explain something to me. I can able to do this. I can do this. I have a doubt. Instead use I have a query. Do one thing. Do the following. Do the needful. Instead use do what is required or necessary. Years back. Instead use years ago. Order for. Order. Kindly. Please. Revert. Respond or reply. And prepone. Reschedule or bring forward. Writing the correct phrases is important in setting the tone of the email. So learning to use the correct phrases is also vital in developing the structure of the email. Depending on how they are being used, the phrases fall under 5 categories. So let us look at these categories and some examples. While beginning the topic, you can use sentences like I was wondering if you could, or with reference to your mail dated so and so, or I wanted to clarify, I am writing with regard to, or this is regarding. Now when you're requesting for help, please let us know. Is it possible to? Or could you please help me with, and then use the verb. Or requesting you to, followed by a verb. Now when you're referring to something, you can use as discussed or as previously mentioned. When you're providing a list, use the sentences the dash are as follows, or the following, or this is one of the many, and then use the plural noun. And finally, when you wrap up, use sentences like I look forward to. Use the verb in the ing form. Or I look forward to your response. Please let me know. Or if you have any questions, please email me at. If you would like some additional information, please call me at so and so number. So that was about using appropriate phrases. Let us look about cohesion in writing. So how do you create cohesion? So before that, let us look into what is cohesive words and phrases. Now, you can use words or short phrases which help you guide your reader through your writing and to link sentences, paragraphs and sections both forward and backwards. Now, good use will make what you have written easy to follow, and bad use might mean your style is disjoint, probably with too many short sentences and consequently difficult to follow. So the best way to get a feel for these words is through your reading. Do make sure that you fully understand the meaning. Incorrect use could change completely what you are trying to say. Try to use a variety of expressions, particularly in longer pieces of writing. So how do you create cohesion? So you create cohesion by tying our words, phrases, sentences and paragraphs together. By creating a text where relationships between these elements is clear and logical, and giving the text the flow. Now let's look at this email. Dear Rahul, I am writing with regard to last week's meeting about client support report. We agreed to a deadline of July 10. You told us it would not be possible to finish the report earlier. There has been a change of plans. The report needs to be approved by the client. We need to send it by July 4th. The data is not complete. It's okay. We can still show the progress to the client. Is it possible? Please let me know. Now, if you take a closer look at the email, you will see that it lacks coherence, fluency, and logic. So consequently, the clarity of the message also gets affected. This is where words and phrases come handy. So remember, cohesive words and phrases are words and expressions used to bind together a piece of writing. They show what the writer's attitude is to what they are saying and how what is being said is related to what has previously been said or what will be said. This in turn provides a sense of clarity, coherence, fluency, and logic to a piece of writing. Now they can be single words, adverbs, prepositional phrases, short finite clauses, or adverbial phrases. So let us look at some commonly used cohesive words and phrases. if you're adding something, use words, phrases like in addition, additionally, further, also, besides. If you're numbering or ordering points, firstly, secondly, thirdly, finally, lastly. If you're making a contrast between two separate things, people, or ideas, use however, on the other hand, in contrast, yet. If you're making an unexpected contrast, that is concession, use although, even though, despite, in spite of the fact that. If you're saying why something is the case, use because, since, as. If you're saying what the result of something is, use phrases like therefore, as a result, accordingly, hence, thus, because of this, or for this reason. If you're making what you say stronger, use words like on the contrary, as a matter of fact, in fact, or indeed. So one activity which I would like you to do is to rewrite the mail we just read earlier using cohesive words and paste it in the comments box below. So let's move on to our next topic on writing focus ideas and statements. The main purpose of focus statement is to summarize the main information contained in the email right at the beginning. In addition to introducing the email's purpose, they also hint at the email's supporting information as well as the paragraphs or details that follow. So how do you focus your message? One way to quickly focus your email message is to ask yourself, why am I writing the answer to that question? This is the purpose. And then ask yourself a second question, what do I want the reader to know or do? The answer to this question will be your focus. Now let us look at an example. The purpose of the email is to introduce the new orientation procedure to managers. So ask yourself the question, what do I want the managers to know or do? You want the managers to know that the new orientation procedure will help them in two ways. It will help the managers provide support for new employees, and it will help them evaluate the employee's performance for 6 months. So how do you write a focus statement? Take a specific topic and the information or action. Now let's take a specific topic, that is, you want to introduce the new orientation procedure to the managers. And what is the information you want to give? You want to tell the managers that the new orientation process will help them provide support for new employees and help them evaluate the employee's performance for 6 months. So your focus statement can be, this mail is to introduce the new orientation procedure to managers, which will help the managers provide support for new employees and help them evaluate the employee's performance for 6 months. So how do you choose details to support your focus? Select the details that best explain and support your main ideas. The focus itself will help you choose relevant details for your email, that is, facts, statistics, the 5 W's, the observations, examples, anecdotes, and comparisons. So let's look at each one of them. Facts. Facts are pieces of information that can be proven to be true or accurate. Always double check your facts. Statistics. Statistics are a collection of numerical facts or numbers, so use precise numerical facts to prove a point. 5 W's. The 5 W's are who, what, where, when, why. Also use H, that is how, whenever appropriate. So on a lighter note, this is also called as the 5 wives and 1 husband. Observations. When you pay close attention to people, places, things, events, and even processes, you are collecting observations. So if you use observations, be certain they are fair and accurate. Don't color them with personal prejudices. Examples. Examples are items or instances that show how a whole category is similar. What are anecdotes? An anecdote is a short account of an incident. So using anecdotes help you show your point instead of simply telling about it. So describe physical characteristics of what was seen, heard, smelled, tasted, or felt. Include what happened to the people involved. Comparisons. Sometimes you need to show how things are similar, there's comparison, or different, that is contrast. Usually you will put greater emphasis on either the differences or similarities. Now moving on to our next topic of inverted pyramid. Now imagine that you had lost your mobile phone and you are at the admin help desk waiting to report it to the lost and found department. So what is the first thing that you tell the officer in charge? Will you tell him the specification of the phone, like the color, the make, the model? Or will you tell him when you last had the phone in possession? No, you will not do either. The first piece of information you need to give him is that you lost your phone. So what is an inverted pyramid? Remember, when you want to highlight an issue, you should always start with the most important information at the beginning and then move on to the other details. This structure is called the inverted pyramid structure. Let us look at the structure of an inverted pyramid. So the inverted pyramid structure puts the most important information at the top and the remaining information follows in order of importance with the least important at the bottom. When writing an email, a rule of thumb is to begin with the most important information in the content and then follow a logical sequence for the rest. Be sure to capture the attention of readers right at the beginning of your email so that they don't need to scroll down to get the main points of your message. An email organized this way gives the reader control. They can decide how much of the discussion, details, and history they need to read. Some examples of inverted pyramid. Ask for action before you explain why. Give a summary before you provide details. Give an answer before you explain and state a conclusion before you discuss. Now, how do you organize your message? Let's look at the best way. When you're delivering good or neutral news, place your focus statement up front and then provide details later. This organization plan is called the inverted pyramid. It ensures that the reader will grasp your most important point immediately. Let us look at an example which uses the inverted pyramid as a method of organization. First, the writer states the conclusion and then offers an explanation. Dear employees, effective immediately, all employees are required to swipe their company-issued cards to enter the workplace. Swipe terminals have been installed at each building entrance. Additionally, you must wear your clip-on ID cards at all times while on company premises. T-Connect is adopting this policy for your safety. Most of you are aware that the company experienced a significant theft last week as a result of an unknown person gaining access to one of the buildings. The new policy should help prevent such an event from reoccurring and help protect employees from intruders. Each employee should already have an ID card issued by Human Resources. If you have misplaced the card, please contact Ms. Maria Swati in Human Resources for a replacement. Thank you for your cooperation. Now, if for an example, the sender had written the same email in a different structure, say if the focus statement was, if you have misplaced your ID card, please contact Ms. Maria Swati, then the reader would have thought that this mail is about a new or replacement for ID cards and ignored the mail, even though at a later point the sender must have written about the mandatory swiping of ID cards at the entrance and explained the details later. This is why we need to put the most important information or the most important statement, that is the focus statement, at the beginning. Till now we spoke about giving good or neutral news. But what when you are presenting unexpected bad news? Here, you should not begin with your focus statement, that is the bad news. Instead, start with a buffer. A buffer is a statement that offers agreement, understanding, or appreciation. Let us look at the structure while delivering unexpected news. First, provide a buffer. That is a statement that offers agreement, understanding, or appreciation. Then provide an explanation that leads to your focus statement. Afterwards, exit gracefully. But remember that if bad news is expected, you can break the news gently upfront. Let us look at an example of using a buffer. Dear Rakesh, I greatly appreciate you researching the print-on-demand option for our in-service trainings. You are right that these events take a heavy toll on our copiers and takes a lot of time for trainers. However, even figuring in these costs, the print-on-demand option is still prohibitively expensive. We will keep watching the market and see if this trend changes. Thank you for your hard work, and let me know if you find a more economical print-on-demand service. So the unexpected bad news is that Mahita is not approving Rakesh's proposal for the print-on-demand service, but she does not write that upfront. She uses a buffer at the beginning, appreciating Rakesh for all his efforts for researching the print-on-demand option. She then agrees with him and explains, saying she understands that it takes a heavy toll on the copiers. She then, in a gentle and subtle way, uses the focus statement to state that the print-on-demand service is expensive and his proposal cannot be accepted at this time. But then she also assures to keep a watch on the market trends. She then exits the mail gracefully by thanking Rakesh for his hard work and asking him to let her know when he is able to find another economical print-on-demand service. So this was the structure we use when delivering an unexpected bad news. This brings us to the end of this session on writing advanced business emails. I hope we implement this in our daily lives while writing professional emails. If you have any questions or suggestion or feedback, please use the comment section. Thank you so much for watching.